the ingest phase. So these are the phases of ingestion in LimaCharlie for artifacts. So the ingest, the important part here, and I'll zoom this a little bit, I think, or maybe not, whatever. So the ingest phase is where you send us the data. It's very simple. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. Underlying all of those ways, there's really one way, which is a REST API. So at the end of the day, there's a REST API. So if you have access to curl or like anything that can do a web request, you have the option to be able to send artifacts to LimaCharlie. So that means you're not required to have some kind of really complex CLI or sometimes an agent installed or any of those things. At the end of the day, you can send one-off artifacts to LimaCharlie. And that API works on ingest API keys. So it's a different set of API keys that only allow you to ingest data. So they're, from a security perspective, there's less to worry about. The other methods are through automated through the sensors. So LimaCharlie agent, for example, is able to monitor for changes or existence or any of those things, files on the host where the agent resides. So in the Windows event log example, and again, we'll step through that example, you might want to point to a Windows event log, and you can tell LimaCharlie, like when there's changes, like over time, I want to just grab a copy of this and ingest it as an artifact. You will also be able to do this type of ingestion specifically with PCAPS with LimaCharlie Net, which is a new service that we're rolling out right now that allows you to do device level network microsegmentation, monitoring, control. And so you're going to be able to just say, for example, I want to collect a PCAP of port 80 and have this automatically ingested as artifacts into LimaCharlie. So using sensors. Finally is the CLI tool. And the CLI tool is our Python CLI/SDK that's available publicly. And with it, there's a command, so you can say LimaCharlie artifact upload, and it will kind of automate the same aspects of uploading using the REST API, but just through a command line. So it's a little bit more convenient. And if you want to automate things in boxes like ingestion, then it tends to be kind of the easiest way to do that. Once the artifact data, so let's say it's a Windows event log, right, or a PCAP, is received by LimaCharlie, the first thing that we're going to do internally is that we're going to normalize it to JSON. So, there's some context here when we use normalize and JSON. There's kind of a little bit of a fuzzy area here. So, what we're doing is not strictly normalizing to some gigantic, unified model of all the things in the world, but rather what we're doing is that we're saying, look, I know that this is, for example, a Windows event log, and I understand the parts of it. I'm going to take, the binary format that this is in, and I'll convert that into a JSON format. So JSON, which makes it both machine readable as well as human readable. So it's kind of a general context, a general format that we can use. And that's what's going to allow us to do all the cool stuff after. So we generate a mirror file that's in JSON. So we always keep the original, and then we create a mirror file, which is the JSON representation of the original. Once that's done, we move to the detect stage, where what we do is that we take this JSON representation and we take all of the DNR engine rules that you've specified, and we apply them onto that artifact. So we'll kind of do it in two different ways. So one is on the JSON itself, right? So let's say it's a Windows event log. Maybe what we'll do is we'll take this, maybe if you've enabled Sigma rules, they contain a bunch of DNR rules that apply to Windows event logs. that's automatically going to match, and then it's going to, generate alerts, generate detections, just normal LimaCharlie stuff. The other one is that we also generate a meta event, which is an artifact event type. And that will essentially just tell you, hey, by the way, I've ingested a new artifact of this type from this box, kind of the basic metadata about it. And that means that you can create DNR rules, not just on the content of the artifact that came in, but you can also automate things based on the fact that an artifact came in from a specific box or something like that. You can create rules to automate flows around that. Finally is the retain step. So essentially what we're doing there is we're just taking the original, the JSON, and then we are retaining it for the number of days that you specified. So at ingest time through the REST API, the CLI, or the rules that you set up around your agent, you're always going to be able to set a number of days of retention. So maybe it's very bulky data you want to retain for a short period of time, so you could say retain it for 3 days, or it's pretty efficient logs that are really, really important for audits in the future, and you want to say I want to retain it for a full year. You can do that right there.